What's going on? It's your boy Lionel, class of 2009, back with another episode of PV versus everybody. And if you don't understand what's going on, I know you're looking at the screen. Listen, it's one thing to have a former Panther on the show. It's another thing to have a Hall of Famer on the show. But that's what we got today, right? He's going to be coming on, man. He's going to be sharing with us about some of the new signees we got coming in. And listen, with somebody with stats and a history like this, man, you better clean the wax out your ears and listen up, all right? Because you know what he's talking about, right? But before we get into all that, you know what I'm saying? Just remind all you guys, right? If you aren't checked in with us, make sure you're following us over on Twitter, PV_versus_. Everybody, make sure you're locked in with us. Also, listen, like and subscribe to the channel. If you don't know, we've been challenged out here. We've been challenged to see if we can get to 1,000 subscribers by Friday, right? You know what I'm saying? So look, we are leaning on you out there, PV Nation, to get it done. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead and like the video. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed as of yet, right? I know most of y'all ain't subscribed. I see it. And share it out with somebody, right? Invite others to subscribe as well. Also, look, if you don't know what the movement is, you need to get on it. Why not PV? You know what it is, right? You know what it is. You know how we getting down, right? And if you didn't know, listen, we got some exclusive stuff that's getting prepared that's going to be coming out soon. Trying to drop this thing before the spring game. We're going to let you guys know about it. And we got that link for all you be able to go out and purchase it, because listen, we writing big checks this year. All right. We writing big checks. All right. I got the big check. So we getting it done. All right. 2024 SWAC champs, hosting that thing at Prairie View, Texas. And that's for this year, 2024. So why not PV, man? Why not PV? So we got some big things in the works. Also want to let you guys know, listen, the Prairie View Classic Car Show is coming up in another weekend. Is going to be coming up, right? It's going to be an awesome event. Obviously, it's an event to be able to raise funds for the athletic department. So make sure you're locked in with them, right? You see the information here on the screen. Make sure you take a screenshot, right? It's definitely, being sponsored by a group that's actually going to be bringing some classic cars, right? To Prairie View, Texas, over on Orange Road. So make sure you reach out to them to figure out, like, hey, how can I donate? How can I be a part of the car show? Lock in with them, right? Because this is an awesome, very cool and creative way to be able to raise funds for the department, man. So make sure you connected and locked in with that. That's coming up in a weekend, in another week and a half, right? But today we got somebody special. And this guy know what he's talking about, because you've seen it on the field. I mean, you've seen it on the field. You know how to play the game. You know how to coach the game. He's one who has been instrumental, right, in training and preparing our own signee for 2024, Deuce Barrington, who we dropped a video about a few weeks ago, right? I know you guys were able to check that out. And so I'm excited to have a chance to actually just be able to bring him up, have a conversation, man, and hear what his thoughts is on the new signee. So, man, put your hands together, man. Put your hands together for that bad man, Jerome Howard. What's going on, man?
Hey, Lionel, what's going on? Thank you for having me.
Oh man, I'm excited for you coming on. Listen, it's not every day you have a Hall of Famer on the show. You know what I'm saying? It's not every day you have a PV Hall of Famer on the show.
Right.
And so I just want to first and foremost, right, just ask you, when you got that call, right? Because we talk about Hall of Fame, right? When you think about the NFL or MLB or all these different Hall of Fames, right? A lot of times there's so many years that transpire in between when somebody finishes their playing career and when they get the call to be into a Hall of Fame, whether it's even their school's Hall of Fame, whether it's a professional Hall of Fame, right? But the fact, you guys can see him on the screen, right? Y'all can tell this is still a young man, right? You know what I mean? This still a young guy. You feel me? How was it for you when you got that call that PV said, hey, listen, we want to select you as a part of our 2022 class to be in the Prairie View Hall of Fame?
And that it's really one of those moments that's tough to put into words. My freshman year of college, my best friend was actually one of my roommates, and we every year high school as well, we would come up with quotes and mantras that we would kind of use for each season. And at that time, I lost my grandmother, who was like my best friend at that time. So one of my quotes / mantras was "Start unknown and finish unforgettable." And that was like most student athletes, that was something that, you have different chants and mantras that you put on your locker, and that was something that I put on my locker every day throughout my entire athletic career at Prairie View. So it's one thing to say something, but it's another thing to live it and to see that hard work pay off. So that was just a big moment for me. Very tough to put into words still to this day. At times, I still don't believe that it's real, even though I know I put in the work and I know God is good, God is amazing, but it's still one of those things that just, the reality of it and the surrealness of that moment is just tough to put into words.
Man, I mean, and I can bet, right? And I think it's just, amazing to be able to see, and I'm happy, right, to see that, the university was able to recognize, like, hey, this is somebody who is deserving, right, to get there. And so why wait, right, another 20 years in order to do it? Why not recognize that early on? Because we all know that it should happen. And so I'm super excited that they were able to do that, right? And obviously, seeing you in the all purple, what I'm saying, with the jacket, right? I'm saying, getting up there, it was super dope. But I have to go back now and say, hey, you were someone who had the opportunity and ability to not even come to PV in the first place, right? I mean, coming out of high school, you were committed to Western Kentucky, right? So first of all, we appreciate Western Kentucky, because Western Kentucky gave us 2 PV legends, right? KJ Black and Jerome Howard. Like, listen, any player from Western Kentucky that's looking to transfer to Prairie View, listen, call me right now. Hit me up, all right? Because if you come here, you're going to be legendary, all right? You're going to be legendary. We let you know. If you leave Western Kentucky to come PV, we just going to etch you in stone. But anyway, the point is, you were committed to Western Kentucky, right? I also had other offers, right? Bowling Green, and I think Alabama A&M was one that you listed and mentioned as well. Why did you make the decision to come to Prairie View over going to another one of these FBS programs?
Well, there were a number of reasons. At that time, I'm always transparent. I was struggling a tad bit academically, and I realized that in certain subjects, I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. So one thing that really stood out to me was coming to HBCU. I knew that the class sizes would be smaller. Culture was something I was very big of. My high school, Plantation High School down in South Florida, the culture there can be described as a HBCU as well, something where everyone looks forward to Friday nights to watch us go out and put our best foot forward. So, the culture of an HBCU it's one of those things that you just got to come out and see a game. Just like I tell the student athletes who I train, come out and see a game. I don't have to tell you about it. I'll take you to the game. Come watch and see for yourself. And then at that time as well, we heard about the stadium. I seen the facilities. And if I'm being transparent, being from South Florida, I never heard of. I was saying Prairie View. From like Prairie View. He's like, no, Prairie View. So I did that right until I came on my business. Once I came out and I saw the product and I saw what the school had to offer, it was almost a no-brainer. Not to mention that my best friend as well, Terrence Mitchell, him and I were high school teammates, and Prairie View offered us the opportunity, the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, to continue being teammates again at the next level. To this day, I mean, we talk 4 or 5 times a week. Me and him slept head and toe in the bed. We shared clothes, shared shirts. This is literally my brother. My mom, we call each other parents, mom, dad, whatnot. That was another, if I'm being transparent, that was probably the biggest of them all, was knowing that I had to continue playing the game that I love with one of the people in my life that mean the most to me.
Like you say, right? It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's not often that you have a high school teammate that you can go to college and play D1 college ball together. Right. And you mentioned, like you say, man, you got on campus and you saw, what Prairie View had to offer. But at that time, right, you talk about just a, stadium wise, right, and football facilities wise, we wasn't necessarily where we are now, right? So what was it when you on campus, right, that really stuck out to you at that time? Because, now when people hear that, they say, oh, yeah, man, yeah, football facilities, Prairie View is killing it, right? But we have to remember at that time when you were coming 2011, it wasn't the same as it is now, right? So, but you still made the statement and said, man, I saw someone I got on campus, the culture, and then I still saw, man, the facilities and the things that was offered there. So what can you name some of those things? You know what I mean? Because those are some things that are intrinsic that are still here and that's past even now the glitz and glam that we've added, but yet that's intrinsic is still here on campus.
For sure. The biggest thing there is just being a kid from the inner city of Fort Lauderdale. Just like most places you hear as a student athlete or as a kid, you got three options. You either sell drugs, you play sports, or you rap. I learned very early that I couldn't rap, so we scratched that one off the list. I've seen a lot of other people sell drugs and that didn't end as well, so I scratched that one off the list. So for me and Terrence as well, when we got to campus, something we spoke about on our flight back home was that for us, it was the exposure. One of my favorite quotes, you've seen the sessions, I got a million quotes, but one of my favorite quotes for the young men is that exposure leads to expansion. So for me, out of my immediate surroundings of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, to now come to Prairie View and to witness Black excellence, I thought that those three options were all I had. But then to get on campus and
come on,
hey, this guy, these strangers are pulling me aside. They're talking to me about the stock market. I'm like, wait, what's that? How does that work? What's Wall Street? What's this? What's that? So I think with the smaller setting, as I mentioned, the smaller class sizes allows for more intimacy and allows for me to also be able to grow in other areas outside of my life, outside of sports, because whether teenagers want to admit it or not, there's always this tad bit of fear/insecurity of what the next chapter looks like and if you're prepared for it. So we know, all of us know at some point sports is going to end. So regardless of how you feel about, I'm going to make it pro, I'm going to be that 1%, that's fine. But you may not say it out loud, but in the back of your mind, there's an insecurity of what if I don't? Then what do I do? So for me, being on that visit and having guys like Prince Pierce and having guys like Bubba McDowell, who's our now, who was the defensive back coach, now head coach for Prairie View A&M. Believe it or not, he played a big role in it as well. Talking to guys like that, talking to guys like Harry Williams, talking to guys like KJ Black. Shout out to KJ Black, who's the best Panther ever. Let's call it like it is. So having guys like KJ, who I'm able to get on a phone call with, and it wasn't selling me on sports. He's like, look, dude, you're a good ball player. You work hard. Anywhere you go with a halfway decent strength coach, you're going to be okay. But let's talk about what Prairie View has to offer away from football. Yeah. And that was something different that a lot of, Willie Taggart, him and I still have a pretty decent relationship. He was the head coach at Western Kentucky at that time. And he was kind of upset because I was the first guy that committed to his signing class. And they were doing some great things at that time. And, he was upset that, I did decommit a few days before signing day. He couldn't quite understand it. And I just reminded him, I said, Coach, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm focused on the Jerome Howard one day when the ball is done. How do I know I'm going to still be okay post athletics? And that's something that Prairie View did a good job of just selling me, not even selling me, just informing, educating me on, exposing me on my.
And I think that's so important, right? And when you talk about, what's the benefit and blessing of HBCUs, right? And now we're just talking in the general scope, is that, right? To expose our Black youth, right, to the ability, to the opportunities that's there, but they just don't see it. But when you get to a HBCU and you see, wow, like we got people that work in Congress who've come through our HBCU, our school. We got people that's working, creating policies for the state. We got people that are lawyers. We got people that are doctors. We got people that are business owners. We got people that's coming back and giving $100,000s of dollars to their university. Oh my goodness, it just opens up your mind, right? And so that's the importance of HBCUs and even Prairie View A&M universities, because we also have those type of alum that have come through, those type of students who are even on campus then, who can challenge you and show you different perspectives, students and Blacks from all over the country, all over the world even, right? To give you different perspective and take your mind international even. And so, man, all those things you said is so important, but it also reminds me of how tough it was for you to even get to that point, right? Because you also were almost in a position where you wasn't even going to be able to play college ball, right? Because you did put in the work, right, to get better as a football player. You did put in the work to say, man, you know what? I messed up early in my high school life as far as academics. You put in the work at the end to say, let me catch up. But even the NCAA didn't even believe you for a second, right? You know what I'm saying? So, just talk to the people a little bit about that, right? And what transpired and how the Lord blessed for you on the 18th of 21 days to be approved, right? To be able to, go ahead and play at Prairie View.
Well, I'll give you guys the short version, but first of all, let's just say God is good, because if you only knew, I'll give you guys the short version because I want to make sure we get to these athletes. I was a guy that knew better, but I early in my high school career, I wanted to fit in and be, fit in with the popular kids, follow the crowd. A lot of the same mistakes that a lot of the kids make today, which caused me to then get behind the 8 ball academically. So now I was a guy that was barely eligible in South Florida at that time. You needed a 2.0 to be eligible. I was cruising around a 2.2. But the issue is, as my high school career started improving, a lot of those guys who I was hanging out with, they were either going to jail, getting in academic trouble. So we started parting ways, and I started hanging around better company. But the issue is, now I started getting scholarships. So University of Marshall was my first scholarship. So now that was motivating. That was expired. Like, let me get it together now. But the issue is,
there you go. You back.
Are you there?
Yeah, you back. We got you.
I think did I lose you?
Yeah, we lost you for a second, but you were saying you was University of Marshall gave you a scholarship. It was motivating.
I can't hear you anymore.
You can't hear me?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? I can hear you. I can hear you.
I can't hear you.
Okay, you might need to go in and come back out.
Let me see.
I have to leave and come back.
Let me see.
All right, so why Jerome get that straight, man? It's just awesome, and we're gonna talk about it too here in a second. But obviously, if you didn't know, Jerome is an author, right? He wrote a book called "So Now What," and I think when he's talking about some of the things that's transpired throughout his, especially in high school, right, it's evident as he put it in the book, and you can see of why he's so motivated to turn around now and help other youngsters out, man. And you back? You can hear me now?
Yeah. I hear you now. Perfect. Sorry.
Cool. Yeah. So you're talking about Marshall, man. You got your first scholarship from Marshall.
Yes, I got my first scholarship from the University of Marshall. So now, as you'd imagine, I'm inspired. I'm motivated. I'll do anything.
I lost you. Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, I lost you again. It's all right. We're going to get it straight. All right. Nah, I can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Might have to leave and come out again. There you go. There you go. I hear you now.
Sorry, it keeps muting itself. So as I mentioned, I received my scholarship from the University of Marshall, so I was inspired and motivated. So at this point, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to go to the next level and get this scholarship. But the issue is that's not how sports works. So when you do like I did and you are reactive as opposed to proactive, now your first 2 years, you're playing catch up. So now when a lot of my friends who are seniors are wearing pajamas every day and they're taking PE and arts and crafts and whatever else, I'm taking these hard classes. So consequently, because of my bad decisions and being reactive, waiting to the last minute to do things and not taking it serious the first time, like everyone told me, now I had to go back and retake classes, doing night school, doing all these different things. So when it came time, signing day went past, everything was great. So now I'm submitting my transcripts to the NCAA, and they're like, wait a minute, how did your GPA jump so high so fast? So instead of me being able to, because Coach Prince Pearson, who was the guy that recruited me at that time, Heist Northern, Rasan Harris, all these guys were excited to get me on campus. They're like, if you graduate, let's just say June 5th, we trying to have you here June 9th. But because of the bad decisions I made early on, I couldn't get there because the NCAA didn't release me. They opened up an investigation. So if any of you are very familiar with the movie Blindside, that setting, he sat at the table and pretty much had to defend himself and kind of speak up and explain. That's what I went through. So I had to stand in front of the NCAA and tell them, explain this class, explain that. Because let's just say I took English. I'm just making this up. I took English as a freshman, and let's just say I got a C. Well, now I'm back focused. I'm laser focused now. I got a scholarship. I got something to attain, something to reach. Now I get a B in the class. I get an A. So now my GPA went from let's just say a 2.5 to now a 2.7. But if you're doing that across 6 or 7 different classes, the NCAA is like, wait a minute. So they wanted to make sure there was no foul play. No one's just giving me grades being a student athlete. You know, the stories that we hear about, which none of that was the case. But the craziest part is it got to the point where now I'm home again. Terrence, my best friend, we're working out every day. He's like, man, what's the update? I'm like, man, I don't know. I think I'm gonna just start looking up some D2s, some prep schools, or maybe see if I can reach back to Western Kentucky and Gray Shirt coming in spring. I'm just trying to put all options on the table. So Coach Pearson, and we laugh about this to this day, he's like, Jerome, you know what? Come on up. We're going to get you on campus. So I think everything is good. So he's like, I get there, I move in. He gives me a call like, hey, Heich Northern wants to see you. So I'm like, what are we talking about? I just got here. So I get to the office of Heich Northern, the head coach at the time. He's just a straight shooter. This dude, like, man, he like, look here, coach. That's he called everybody coach. Like, look here, coach. So the NCAA giving you 21 days. You can practice with the team. You can do everything, coach. But if by day 21 you ain't got it done, we're gonna have to send you back home, coach. Like, coach, you like? I'm like, wait. So I thought I was good. He said, hey man, his favorite word is I'm just telling you what they told me.
Right.
I'm just telling you. So again, this is how good God is. So I'm working out every day, man. I'm praying like no other. Because it's an uncomfortable feeling because you're working out with the team. You're a part of the team, but in the back of your mind, you might not be. And of course, nobody wants to admit it, but of course, it's the social pressure, the embarrassment, all that lingering in the back of your mind too. Because I'm like, I don't even want to, my mom, she's like, send me some pictures. I want to post on Facebook. And I'm like, Mom, don't post this yet. I don't know. So she did it anyway, but yeah. So now there's more pressure. And I'm like, oh, everybody, congrats, man. I know you're going to kill it, all this stuff. But by the grace of God, day 18, they called me back to the office. So I don't know what to expect. I'm walking around in circles. I'm like, come on, God, please be some good news. And he's like, hey, we got an email back from the NCAA. And it's like a game of trivia. He's just waiting. He's like, so I got an email back from the NCAA. And my heart's like,
yeah.
10 seconds go by. And you all clear. You good to go. I'll see you at 2 p.m. I'm like, come on, man. Don't do me like that. But in the rest of
there's silence on purpose.
Yeah, that awkward silence. I'm like, the longest 10 seconds of my life. But again, man, God is good, and by the grace of God, it all worked out. And sadly enough, from a spiritual standpoint, none of us want to go through trials and tribulation. But I'm grateful and I'm happy it happened because I'm able to share my story and impact so many kids on a daily basis. And even though this is football, there's universal principles. We always talk about athletics being the game of life. So there's so much from my experiences or my choices or lack thereof that I can use to inspire adults as well. Because
for sure.
Being a procrastinator or being reactive, you don't think about the future, but now you learn that maybe I should do this right just in case because I just don't know what the future holds.
Yeah, I mean it's big time, right? Being able to see and realize, that hey, the decisions I make today is going to impact me for tomorrow. And I want to come back to that in just a second because I got just a few more questions before we get to the current student athletes, right? Because you faced another challenge even in your freshman year, right? Because you also, got injured as well, right? So you're coming on campus, you actually get to the point where they say, hey man, listen, you are a guy, like you're going to be on the field from day one, right? Right. But then you get injured kind of, halfway through the season, November, right? You know what I'm saying? What was that experience like, right? Facing that next hurdle of now, like, man, I'm coming in, things have started well, but now I'm sidelined, right? But not allowing that, right, to put you in a position of where, you know what? I'm not going to work out as hard, right? I'm not going to rehab like I'm supposed to. I'm not going to, you know what I'm saying? Like you went full force and saying like, no, the opportunity is right here ahead of me. I'm really about to get it right, and I'm gonna come back stronger next year.
Man, I think a lot of that is credited to my parents and my grandparents. You talk about some prayer warriors, man. That's where I come from. So I can recall like yesterday, I was home in South Florida doing some rehab after getting hurt, right? This is post-injury, home for winter break. So CJ Potter, the athletic trainer, he was able to set me up down there where I was able to still do my so for those who don't know, I tore my ACL, MCL, meniscus, and I also had microfracture. So if you're not familiar with microfracture, just imagine someone having this pen and putting a bunch of dots all over, so as you'd imagine, that sucks. So just about everything you can name in my knee, I tore up. And I remember again having those same conversations with my grandmother, like, maybe this is a sign I should give up. Maybe I should try a different route. Maybe football not for me. Maybe whatever. And I mean, when I tell you she prayed me out of that, every negative thought, every everything that wasn't of God. She's like, no, God didn't bring you this far to leave you. Think about, she talked about personal things that I've been through before that, 10 years before that, 8 years before that, 5 years before that. And she's always felt like, similar to what I'm saying, is that everything that, selfishly from a secular standpoint of all of us just being human, we're naturally just so selfish that you don't realize that everything not about you. So I didn't know what my life would end up like, but she's always like, you don't know, you not quitting, you not giving up, you don't know who you're going to inspire. And that's something my grandma's all about. Like, she'll tell you, like, hey, you're going to die one day, but don't leave this earth only caring about you. Leave this earth better than you found it. Make somebody else's life better.
Yes.
So that's kind of what kept me going. Just my grandmother's prayers, my mother's prayer, everyone just praying over me. And every time I had a negative thought, nope, we're not doing that. I told you, don't call me with that. We're not doing that. So them just having that strong support system.
No, that's big. And like Kerry's saying, man, this was a tough player, man. He could get after that ball. You know what I'm saying? And listen, let's be real, right? Because Kerry knows what he's talking about, right? You know what I'm saying? When you talk about what happened after, right, you were prayed out of that mindset over the next 3 years. First and foremost, how were you only all SWAC Defensive Player of the Year one time? First of all, let's start there, right? You know what I'm saying? Because listen, with these numbers, 101 tackles sophomore year, 12.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Junior year, 91 total tackles, 19.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. Then senior season, 119 total tackles, 16 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks. And listen, and we got to include over the course of your career as well, right? 5 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, 1 interception return for a touchdown, by the way, and 13 passes defense, right? So you talk about just being such a dynamic player all over the field, all SWAC 3 years, those 3 years, All-American your last 2 years, right? And, of course, that 1 SWAC Defensive Player of the Year. But listen, man, when you talk about your career and look at what you did, and listen, Jerome Howard is, if you don't know, the all-time leader for Prairie View in tackles and in tackles for loss, right? So you're talking about numbers. If you all want to know something about history, the history of Prairie View football, you say, man, who's the all-time leading tackler? You don't have to worry no more. He's right here on the screen. If you're wondering, man, I wonder who got the tackles for loss total, right, in Prairie View. You ain't got to worry no more. He right here on the screen, right? But when you look at just your career and what transpired then, right, what stands out to you most is just about your playing time while here at Prairie View? And also, I want to ask as well, in this time, why didn't you, what was it that kept you loyal to Prairie View? Because after that sophomore season, I can imagine that somebody could come knocking on the door and say, man, listen, I know you're doing big things at PV. You also can come back over here to Bowling Green. We still open. You know what I'm saying? You can slide over here. You're a Florida kid, man. Listen, Central Florida, South Florida, we open. What made you also stay at Prairie View as well?
Man, I can tell you now, 95% of my answer is going to go back to the same thing, either God or my parents and grandparents. I'm more of a, even though I'm 31, I'm more of an older soul, come from an older generation. So you don't start something and quit. And my parents, they're not very like outcome based people. They're like, you control what you can control, you do the best that you can do, and you let the coaches do their job. And then everything else seemed to take care of itself. So I was always like, hey, my parents, even if I entertained the thought of transferring, because I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't think about it. I'm not going to lie and say that coaches didn't pull me aside after the coin toss or send the fake messages like, hey, good game, man. How did the game go last week? I know where you're going with this. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to lie and say that didn't occur. But at the end of the day, I knew what the mission was. And I love Prairie View. I love the coaching staff. I'm not, nowhere is perfect, right? So I had my things that I didn't like. But at the end of the day, man, it's the guys like the Bubba McDowells. Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, it's the guys like special shout out to CJ Potter, who's our athletic trainer, who I have a great relationship. Special shout out to AJ Anthony Johnson, who was my equipment manager, because he played a big role in that too. And that's what I try to inform a lot of student athletes is similar to what we mentioned at the beginning. It's the community, it's the collective, it's everything all together. Because I didn't always see eye to eye with the defensive coordinator or the linebacker coach. There's times I've changed. I'll be transparent and say I didn't like what he called. Hey y'all, we're not running that. We're going to cover 3. Ready to break. And it worked. Like 90% of the time it worked. You know what I mean? But that other 10, he had a lot to say about that. So that's
all right. Long as it was working, we good. You know what I'm saying?
They know 90% of the time. But that other 10, that come with it. But in all seriousness, having the guys like AJ who I can go and I may have been upset by, because you're young. It's just small things. Like, for example, I may get into it with Charles McMillan, who was one of our defensive coordinators at the time. Him and I may exchange words after a tough loss. And at that, I'm still young, so I'm so stuck on how he's saying it that I'm overlooking what he's saying. So I may want to walk in the locker room and, man, I'm over this. I'm gonna just go back home. This other coach contacted me, whatever. But having guys like AJ, having guys like CJ, having guys like KJ Black, all these guys that pull you to the side. Hey, calm down. Repeat to me what he said. So that what he said, do you disagree with what he said, or you didn't like how he said it? Or you didn't like the setting in which he said it? Okay, so now let's put football to the side. Do you think the rest of your life that people are going to say everything how you want to say it? Nah, you're right. You know what? You're right. All right, so let's get back to work. This team needs you. Stay focused. Be the leader that we know that you can be, and we need you to be in order to continue winning ball games. Let's get back to work.
Yeah. No, that's big, man. It's, having those people around you, right? You know what I'm saying? Who will bring you aside, right? And say, okay, you heard what they said, but now what, right?
So now what?
So now what, right? You know what I'm saying? Which you learned that through the course of your playing experience, right? And then, right, it led you after that playing experience to then put together this book, man. If you guys didn't know, Jerome is an author, right? I got my copy, by the way. You know what I'm saying? So you guys make sure y'all get y'all a copy, you know what I'm saying, off the website. But, one thing you talk about in there, right, you have one section that's dedicated to networking, right, and talking about your network, talking about, it's not about who you know, it's about who knows you, right? You know what I'm saying? You told the story of Marquise Johnson, who's another graduate of Prairie View, right? You know what I'm saying? Who, we're going to work to get on the show too, so you guys can hear his story. But, talk about how he got a call at one time, right, because of a relationship he built with somebody who eventually became a coach for the San Francisco 49ers, right? And that set him on a trajectory for the rest of his life, being able to coach and being able to go and do things on a professional level. And so when you talk about Coach Bubba, right, because throughout the book, right, I mean, you quoted him so many times, right? You know what I'm saying? Even throughout the book. And again, this was at a time before Coach Bubba was a head coach, right? You know what I'm saying? I don't even think he was your positional coach at this time, right? So you can tell then he had an impact on you, right, during that time. What was it like, man? And kind of give some people a little bit more insight into who Coach Bubba is, because some people may not know. They may only know him from the Houston Oilers time, right? Or from now he got the job, but they don't remember, man, he's been connected with PV for a long time, pouring into kids. And so give us a little perspective as far as you from a networking standpoint and having Coach Bubba as a part of your network.
Yeah, man. How much time you got? Because I can talk about Bubba all day. There's, I think in today's time, Bubba, and I spoke about this with another local reporter, and just speaking about the importance of having guys like Bubba, because in this day and time, everyone's so stuck on influence, right? But Bubba is impact. So you can't overlook, you know what I mean? Like, you're so stuck on the clout and the stars and this coach because he may have had this 5-star, this guy, this what, but Bubba's a guy that genuinely wakes up trying to impact guys every day, trying to change guys' lives. And it's not just football. Yeah. I can honestly say that Bubba McDowell has helped in my development as a man to this day. Even myself being someone who's recently married in July of last year, me and Bubba McDowell have sat down and talked about that. He sat me down last year and said, hey, as a husband, this is what you need to do. You need to create boundaries here. In the professional space, create boundaries there. Understand that you can't do certain things with your friends this way. This is how you need to communicate with your spouse. When you're upset, this is how you should handle conflict resolution. Now, I'm not going to lie and say I get it right every time, right? Because I'm not going to, you know what I mean? We're not going to do that. We're going to be transparent, right? But nonetheless, just being able to have a guy that you still have that relationship with, that's still imparting guidance into you. I've graduated. My last season for the Panthers was 2014. I graduated 2015. So give or take a decade ago, in so many words, I was no longer valuable to him. And so many programs, once you out of there, on to the next. They probably had, I don't know the exact number, but I'm pretty sure there were 5 or 6 number 40 since I last played. But Bubba McDowell is still someone that's going to check on you, still going to hold me accountable, right? If he sees me doing something wrong, or I can be walking, hey, man, don't do that. Hey, you better than that. I was walking to a game one day, and my wife was walking near the road, and I wasn't closer to the road. He pulled me to the side and said, hey, you a man. I was a fiance at the time, but he's like, you're gonna be married. Don't do that, because if a car come by and it
Yeah.
splash her, you need to get wet, not her.
Yeah.
Out
Yeah.
Florida, ain't nobody teach me that. But that's when it goes back to what I mentioned earlier, having that exposure. Because now you know what, Bubba, I never thought about that. And it is raining, so I would hate for her to get wet, but I didn't grow up learning that. But having guys like Bubba McDowell that's going to teach you the wisdom and the knowledge that's so much bigger than just football.
Yeah, and it reminds me of what Coach Green said when he was on, when we talked about, what is our pitch to recruits, right? He's like, one of the three things we tell, parents, right, is you're going to give us your son and we're going to make him a better man, right? You know what I'm saying? And I think when you're talking about Prairie View and what we're seeking to do here, you know what I'm saying? We're trying to graduate folks, right? We're going to give you a chance to win championships. But we also going to make your son a better man, right? And I think that's what you're talking about now, right? To show that there's a value that's beyond just your playing here, right? And you being able to do something specifically for the university. No, we care about you as an individual. And you mentioned accountability, right? And after this, we're gonna slide over and get to this film review, right? But I just thought this was powerful based on what you just said, right? It says accountability has taken a back seat to entitlement and flat out laziness in our current generation. And you just mentioned that, right? Talked about that accountability, right? You know what I'm saying? And I think that's super important. And then another thing, the question you asked here that was very powerful was, ask yourself if one or all of your goals you mentioned come to fruition exactly like how you want, whose life outside of yourself would change and how would it change? And it's so funny because on Instagram this past week, I put out this little video. I was like, hey, listen, man, really honestly, I saw a video, a guy said $100,000 was really a selfish goal for him because he said, because that only was going to be enough to make my life comfortable. It didn't impact my parents. It didn't impact my nieces and nephews. It didn't impact the community. So like, I was like, you're right. Like we have to set goals that not just impact us, but other people. And when you talk about Coach Bubba and the impact he's still seeking to have on guys who graduated, that's saying, hey, I'm not just seeking to do that, which is comfortable just for me. I'm just trying to win just so I can stay in a position here. No, I'm also thinking about, man, how can I continue to impact my players? And so for you, man, when you talk about the book, man, can you just talk a little bit about that and kind of so people can understand what you're trying to what message you're trying to convey through the book? So now what?
So my book, the biggest thing is a lot of people think that it's only an athlete-based, athlete-centric book. But as I mentioned earlier, athletics is the gateway of life. There's so many principles that you're going to learn through life. So the title was So Now What? And it's similar to the pandemic, right? Because myself being a former athlete, I asked myself, when I graduate, when I'm done playing football, then what? Because I was the first in my family to graduate. I wanted to play pro. That didn't happen. So I found myself wondering, okay, what do I do now? What's next? But as I got older, I realized that so many other people, regardless of age, race, culture, gender, they all, at some point in your life, it's inevitable. You're going to come across that roadblock or that pivot. You're going to have to ask yourself, so now what? For some, it may have been the pandemic when there were people who worked 20 to 40 years on the same job and the job decided to go a different direction. For others, it's, hey, we got married young, we had kids. Now the kids are out of the house, and now we have to relearn each other in a different space. And I can go on and on with a number of examples, but I just wanted to kind of create something to share my experience, share the experience of guys like Buck McDowell, Marquise Johnson, and a number of others that I, inserted in the book, just kind of share the knowledge and wisdom that we have to help navigate when those tough times arise. Because it's not an if, but when.
Yeah, no, that's big. And we didn't even talk about Bruce, right? You know what I'm saying? We didn't even talk about Bruce, right? Because we could talk about Bruce, you know what I mean?
Okay.
But, yeah, man. And just tell the people, because you do train, right? You know what I'm saying? You train so that people can have some dynamic performance, right? And so obviously we talked a little bit about, and you're on the video that we shot with Deuce Barrington, right? And so you do train high school athletes, but you also train professional athletes, right? So talk a little bit about that, right? Before we slide over into doing this film review.
So I guess we'll start with some of the pro guys. I've probably trained, it's hard to keep count, but if I had to guess, probably upwards of 80 plus, maybe more than that. I mean, it was that when I first did, I was excited. I was writing it down, but after like 30 or 40, it's all the same. You know what I mean? So, but I've been blessed and fortunate to work with dozens of pro athletes, from NFL to, I've done a lot with NASCAR, helping them prepare for the Pocono Raceway and the Daytona 500. I've been endorsed by Nike for 5 to 6 years. I've done things with Lululemon. I've done things with Dick's Sporting Goods. I've literally traveled the world helping Nike find, evaluate, and discover the top 300 athletes to then invite them out to the Nike opening. What else here? It's been a while. I've trained nearly 7,000 middle school and high school athletes across all sports. Many of them have went and earned collegiate scholarships. Maybe 8 to 10 of them have went pro, and I'm talking football now. And then I have another 3 that were just inducted into the Duquesne University's Hall of Fame as well.
Okay.
So that was pretty cool to see that.
That's big. That's big to be, and that's that impact carrying on, right? You know what I'm saying? Now you're having a legacy on others, both young and old, and super impactful. And man, we're gonna make sure that everybody has a chance, right, to get connected with you. Obviously, there's some people on who are athletes themselves who are saying, hey man, this would be a great person to connect with. Obviously, a PV grad here in the Houston area. That if you're looking for some training, man, he does some dynamic training. I've seen it. You know what I mean? He's trained professional athletes. He's training collegiate athletes, right? And he's training regular people, right, who just need to get in better shape too. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, listen, if you need to be dynamic, whatever level you on, right, you know what I'm saying, to do better in your career, to be there for your kids, or, right, to be a better quarterback or linebacker, he got you. You know what I'm saying? Just across the board. All right, you got you. So let's get into it, though, man. So first up, man, we got a transfer. Aiden Jones, 6'2", 220-pound linebacker who is going to be transferring from Northern Iowa. If you don't know, right, this is, right, Kendon Jones' brother, right, who was a dynamic player, right, at linebacker for us over the past, 4 or 5 years, right, had a huge impact on us, you know what I'm saying, during the 2021, 2023 seasons when we won the SWAC West and got to the championship game. So it's awesome now to see this legacy continue on and his brother transfer down, right, and give us a chance to see him on the field. Obviously, played in 8 games at Northern Iowa. The 8 games during his senior season of high school. 81 tackles, 16 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 33 yards, and then 1 pass breakup. So we're going to go ahead and check out his film here, man. And I'm going to give you a chance to just let us know, man, what you see on the field. Because obviously, listen, like I always say, right, I want to bring those on who know what they talking about. You feel me? You know what I'm saying? So let's check this out. You can let us know what you see.
Okay, well, I'll let a couple plays go by, and then I'll chat.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Ooh.
See him right there laying that hammer down.
My type of guy.
Just the closing speed you see here.
Yep.
And I believe he was coming out of Crosby High School, right?
Yeah.
Originally 2 years ago. Just so you guys know where you're seeing these highlights from. So this is at his time in Crosby High School.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about Aiden, some of the things I've seen online. I watched his tape about 10 times. He's a guy that I think moves well laterally. When we're talking left to right, side to side, and the SWAC being what I would call a pass dominant conference, you always want the guys that can move. At the end of the day, as much as I love the Ray Lewises and the linebackers that were 265, 255, that's just not today's sport. So you want guys like him that can run, that can move around. And something that stands out, when I watched his film, I immediately started smiling because Coach Alvarez, who was PV's strength coach, he's a guy that's all about speed, power, and explosiveness. So to see that a guy like this comes in who already can run, and to think that, hey, wait, that still isn't his best. And the good thing about this, and Aiden, if you're watching this, I don't know you personally, but I want to share some wisdom with you. Please don't follow the common myth of thinking that you have to go out and be 230, 240 pounds. Speed is going to be your game. You're a guy that's explosive at the point of contact. Continue to double down on that. Coach Alvarez is good at his job. We have the resources and the supplements and different things to get you strong and get you bigger the right way. I see so many kids go out and just chug protein shakes and eating 3 and 4 peanut butter jelly sandwiches a day to see the scale move, but then they lose the thing that made them special. This guy is a runner. Now, and something else that I know Bubba so well, this guy is what you can call a cheat code in a lot of ways, because hear me out, because on these long, let's just call it, let's say it's first down and we get a sack. Now it's 2nd and 16. More times than not, the opposing team's going to come out. We're thinking screen. We're thinking some sort of pass. Well, now a guy like Aiden, we can create a special package and now move him from outside linebacker to inside linebacker and allow guys like Kwame, who's we're going to watch in a second, allow a guy like that to go down and be a linebacker coming off the edge to give us a faster rush to go get after the quarterback. So now, if you look at, he reminds me, if I was to give him a player comparison, there's a guy named Deion Buchanan who played for the Arizona Cardinals. He old as well, a little smaller according to society standards. He wasn't the 240, 260 guy, but he was a thumper. He could run after the quarterback. And he could chase down ball carriers. So I'm very excited to see Aiden help us win some ball games.
Oh man, that's what's up, man. Appreciate those thoughts, and like you say, man, Aiden, if you're watching, double down, man. And I love Coach Alvarez. For all those who are not, if you're not following Coach Alvarez on Instagram, like, you missing some great content. First of all, you know what I'm saying? Because I love how he's just bigging up the players, right? Showing the workout, showing what they got going on, and the camaraderie helps build, right, and the competition as he keeps kind of the players together is super dope, man. So shouts out to Coach Alvarez, man. Definitely got to get him on at one point in time. And so you talked about the next guy, right, who we got coming up, and that's Kwame, right, coming over. So Cody, right, he's coming over from Northwestern State, a transfer. We got 3 transfers this year actually coming from Northwestern State. This is one of them, right? Linebacker at 6'2", 230 out of Dallas, Texas originally. He has 27 total tackles on his career at Northwestern State and 1 pass breakup, right? So let's get a chance to watch some of his film as he was over in the Southland Conference, right, at Northwestern State. And so he's being able to play a lot of FCS ball so far, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So let's watch and check out some of his film.
So, yeah, I'm excited to talk about this one. I like this guy a lot.
See him right there, number 19.
Oh, yeah.
Out there in coverage right here.
Oh, yeah. So I'm in a hurry. I'm holding it in, but there's so much I want to share about this guy.
Oh, no, you good.
All right, well, I'm going to get straight to it. His film shows he's 6'2", 225, so a little taller. As you see, this is the one thing that stands out the most. So many guys, including myself, make the big mistake, and I'll call it arrogance to some degree, where you think that you're too good for special teams. And if you look at the Super Bowls and a lot of these big games, look at the Super Bowl this year. That muff punt, that was the difference between San Fran keeping their momentum and possibly winning that game to Mahomes doing what he does best.
Yes.
So I like this. Who, hey, even if I'm a starter, I love this team and I love this program enough that I'm going to run down. I'm going to make sure that I can put the Panthers into great position. I'm sorry. So he can burst down and we can tackle these guys and get what we call T20s, which is when we're attacking and tackling the opposing team at the 20-yard line or less. Because once we stop them, that means that our offense has a greater chance in a shorter field that they need to go put points on the board, whether it be a field goal or a touchdown. So just seeing him go out and play special teams, that was something that really just, man, I was jumping up and down just watching that.
Yeah.
Next, what I love about him, and which you've probably seen already, is this guy, he brings that versatility where I think he'll probably be a good good inside linebacker for us, but he's a guy that can, as I mentioned earlier, we can take a guy like Aiden on those second and long, those third and longs, and he's a guy that can go down and rush off the edge, or if needed, we can keep schematically depending on the opponent. For example, I know Southern likes to do a lot of things with tight ends, so does Valley on occasion. We can have him man-to-man with that tight end and eliminate this guy completely out of the ballpark. And with Coach Anthony Whedon coming back, I know he loves getting those tight ends involved, so he's going to get a lot of that just day-to-day in practice and in training. So that just helps. Because any good defensive coordinator, linebacker coach, any position, one thing that they'll tell you they hate is being what we call handcuffed due to athleticism, meaning that they're limited to what they can really do. So having guys like Aiden, having guys like Kwame allows the defensive coordinator and even Bubba McDowell, the linebacker coach, they can literally pencil in and make whatever changes they want on a week-by-week basis, especially being that he's a guy that's played at the next level, that has, I can watch him play and see he has a high IQ.
Yeah.
Another thing, man, I have a lot to say about this guy. When you see him chase down these ball carriers, what you know, and this is something a lot of coaches don't realize, a lot of people don't watch. When you watch a defender, I want you to watch this, right? He never changes speed. He You know what that means? The only way to never change speed. Watch this. Watch him. He runs the same speed the entire time. So this lets me know that he's what we call a high motor guy. Think about it. What if they came out and that next play, what if they came out and we got a forced fumble? Now, because of his effort, we stopped the team from putting 7 points on the board.
Yes.
So he's a guy that has a high effort, and Bubba McDowell harps in a lot on what we call loafs, which is mediocre effort, for lack of better words. So because you see a guy like that that's running 100% the entire time, that's not giving up on plays, and he's a transfer, so he has real game experience on the collegiate level. I'm excited to see how he comes in. And guys like that, you need to get some of these younger guys set up. You know, make sure our defensive tackles, our defensive ends are lined up the right way. I'm expecting Aiden Jones to come out and compete immediately. So now that can be that. I'll call these two guys a dynamic duo, because Aiden could be more of our lightning, where a guy like Kwame is more of the thunder.
Yeah.
And the thing I want to say about Kwame here, and you guys may not notice this, but he has a very good discipline in pass coverage. So we the pass plays, a lot of times guys get lost with their eyes. See how he's patient here. He's not running. Bubba McDowell hates guys just waiting. You'll hear him say it on the sideline. Why are you just standing there? Run, find work. If there's a receiver standing, don't just stand here. Just nobody's over here. There's no potential wide receiver, tight end. No one's getting the ball because no one's over here. But a lot of guys,
you guard the grass, basically.
Just guarding grass, just wasting space. So he's the guy that has a strong enough IQ and that has enough experience that he knows, hey, if nothing's here, let me start getting my eyes backside. Let me locate, see where number 3 is coming from. Let me see where can I help out some of my teammates. So, man, again, I know we have other guys we want to talk about, but I'm excited to see this dynamic duo go out and do what they do best.
That's big, man. And especially, you know, seeing and, like you say, hearing it come from. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was saying that. If you go back to that play. So this is an example of what I meant. Watch him here. So many guys would just run out. He know he has safety help over the top. Safety's there. He can be patient there. Eliminate the deep route from the guy behind him, and force him to throw it to the check down.
Gotcha. You force him to throw it to the check down by staying disciplined.
Yep, staying disciplined with his eyes.
Nah, that's big, man. And so, you know, like you say, right, hearing it from a guy who's put up the numbers as Jerome has, right? You know what I'm saying? That lets you know, man, if he's excited, then we should get excited as well. And I love that, you know, obviously, like Coach McDowell and the defense, Coach Fosselman want to go out and get guys that had a high IQ and that have that speed, right? You know what I'm saying? To be able to get out on the edge. And like you say, to be able to be in coverage too. I mean, that's big, right? You know what I mean? To say, man, we got a guy who we can stick on a tight end and know, like, hey, listen, we're not worried about getting burnt, right? You know what I mean? And so that's super big. And now moving on, man, we got another guy that's coming in, and we're moving to a couple of defensive linemen. We got 2 D linemen that are coming in as well. And Jerome is gracious enough, right, to also check out their film. And so we want to talk about James Cate, the third. He's coming out of Macomb, Mississippi, 6'3", 280 pounds. Last season at his JUCO, 36 tackles, 2 sacks, and 8.5 tackles for loss with a forced fumble, man. So let's check out his film for a second, and then we'll let Jerome roll after we check out a couple seconds of his tape. And if you don't know, right, we brought in 3 guys from Southwest Mississippi Community College this past year, right? Also got Jeremiah Ratliff at receiver. We also brought in Mo Miles, who was a center as well. So, you know, we've been digging in the Mississippi JUCOs.
Yeah, so with James Cate, a couple things that stand out with him. You guys have seen it already. Another high effort guy. Special shout out to Coach Bubba McDowell. I don't know, every coach has their different region that they go out and recruit, but I can tell that effort was something that they were intentional about getting this signing class, because you see that every kid that I mentioned, effort. And I just wish that so many guys understood how much that effort can mask talent at times. If everyone's Bubba would always say this when I was playing, if we're all wrong, then we're all right. So everyone's playing. Coach called cover 4. We're all playing cover 2. Well, if we're all playing cover 2, we're still in a good position. So the fact that all these guys are, these are guys that are giving you 100% effort every play, even if there is a busted coverage, even if there is a missed tackle, a lot of his tackles, you see that he's running 15 yards to the side. The first guy may miss, and he's there. So think about those times when a guy like this, I say that guy fumbles. Well, guess what? Because he's running, he's able to fall on that ball or possibly even pick it up and take it the other way and put points on the board for the Panthers.
No, for sure.
Another thing that I notice here is, as we all know, in this generation of football, you can't touch a quarterback. You know what I mean? If you put hard on the quarterback, they'll pull a LeBron and flop on you, and now that's a 15-yard flag. So he's a guy that when I watched this film, I noticed a lot of times that he would run up to the quarterback, keep his hands up. But a lot of younger guys, you see, they run to the quarterback and they leave their feet, they jump. So all for the pump fake. And then what happens is now the quarterback continues to run and gets a big play. Or, as I mentioned, he knows how to keep his hands while also closing that ground to make sure that the referee knows if the quarterback does release it early, there's a clear no foul, no flag.
Gotcha.
But the quarterback decides he wants to hold it down and keep it because he closed that space. He continued moving his feet. Now he's in great position to get a sack. So just high IQ things, just small things like that stand out. Another thing you guys may not have noticed is in football, we have what we call a 3-point stance, which is essentially just having one hand in the ground with one foot back. This guy has if you watch him play, there's times that he gives you a 3-point stance and he also gives you a 4-point stance. So imagine a 4-point stance being like a tiger crawl where both hands are down, both feet are there, and he's shooting right into the gaps. So once again, being someone who always thinks situational football, this guy can be this guy can be someone that helps us out big time on, I spoke a lot about Aiden and Kwame on second and third and long, but a guy like that can keep his pad level low and get at these guys right now. I'm immediately thinking, how can this guy help us on those 3rd and 1s, those 4th and 2s? Think about how many games last year the Panthers stood up and made a big stop, 3rd and 3, 4th and 2, and we were able to stop that guy right there. And I'm expecting that standard to continue, having guys like James on our ball team.
That's big, man.
And then another thing, now this stood out to me being a linebacker, right? I noticed he's not a crybaby, and I hate crybabies that are linemen. There's times that you watch this guy play, and he's intentionally being held. The person in the 400 level seats can see it, but he's not giving up on the play. He's still fighting, still what you want. We don't care about excuses. We're not seeking comfort. We got a standard, and the standard will continue to remain the standard, and that's to go out and win ball games. If you're on defense, we'll talk about the holding later. We'll figure it out later. Let Bubba McDowell and the rest of the coaching staff throw their clipboards, throw their hat around. But for the players, we got a mission. Let's go out and win the game.
No, that's big. That's big. You're right. That goes back to what you're saying about the effort, right? You know what I'm saying? If you're a guy who say like, hey, I'm gonna go out and give 100% effort, I'm gonna let them handle what they handle, let them do their job, let the referees do what they're supposed to do as far as actually calling what they need to call. I'm gonna do my job as far as giving effort, right? You know what I mean? So that's big.
About James, one last thing before we go on to the next guy. Another thing that stood out with James is that he's a guy that, if you look at, and I'm not comparing, this is big shoes to fill, so I'm not saying that he's this guy at all. I'm just making a comparison. If you look at a guy like Aaron Donald, what makes Aaron Donald special is he has the physical strength and dominance to beat you when you double team him, but he also has the awareness, the discipline, and the mindset to know when to just hold on to the double team for the next guy to make the tackle. Something that Bubba always harps on this is every play isn't your play to make. And you see a lot of big plays happen, and what we call a lot of busts, which just broken coverages happen because everyone's trying to be Superman. So there's times when he needs to hold that double team so Kwame can come in and hit the fullback, and Aiden can come back around and get the tackle for a negative 2-yard loss and possibly a fumble. But there's other times it's a pass. Don't just sit there and just cover ground. Why are we just sitting here giving up on the play? And you see he's a guy that goes in, he beats the double team, he's stepping in between guys, give him a nice spin, and going after getting the quarterback. Sometimes they're sacked, sometimes the quarterback's throwing it away, but these are just small details that your everyday person may overlook. But I'm very proud of Bubba McDowell, all the coaching staff, because everyone has their own regions and guys that they went out and recruited. And I'm excited to see how these guys help us out.
Oh man, that's dope. And obviously, man, I know PV Nation appreciates the analysis, right? Because it's dope that we have guys like you, right, former players that we can go out to, right, and bring on and say, hey, man, tell us about this guy. What are we going to be being able to look forward to? Having guys come up, especially guys that come from like the JUCO ranks, right? That we may not haven't seen a lot of their games, right? We haven't seen a lot of their film to know. And so to have a guy, right, who's broke down film for a career, right, early in life, right, to come and say, man, these are some things I see about these gentlemen. I think it's super exciting, what I'm saying, for us to be out now, and as spring practice about to start up, for us to see and notice and hear from the coaches as they talk about these guys. And so one of the guys we got to check out, man, and this is a guy who I'm super excited to see kind of what he possibly could do. Obviously, he's somebody who was a former 2-star coming out of high school, went to Central Michigan, didn't see a lot of time on the playing field. But when you see his size at 6'6", 260, it's something that kind of makes you excited. And so this is Fred Stokes. Seeing him working out with Coach Alvarez, strength and conditioning coach, right on campus right now. And so I'm happy to see him there with the guys getting it in. And so let's look at a little film for Fred Stokes as well. We'll run it for a little bit, and then we'll let you share as well.
Okay.
And Ricky just letting you know, man, hey, this is what we need more of. The legacy student athletes returning to give their input and advice. Thanks for returning to give your input, Mr. Howard. So he's just giving you a big shout out, man.
Thank you. Hey, Ricky, thank you for the kind words.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And hey, while we saying that, man, if you are another former athlete, man, and you checking out the show and you say, man, hey, like I would love to come give back, give some analysis, share, first of all, what you're doing as a former PV Panther, right? Man, we want you on the show, man. So definitely hit me up, pvversuseverybody@gmail.com. And we can definitely work something out, because we definitely want to get connected with our former athletes, right? Across the board, track, bowling, baseball, softball, it don't matter, right? So definitely hit us up. But let's talk about Fred Stokes.
So when I see a guy like Fred Stokes, especially watching his previous season, one person comes to mind, and this is no disrespect to Alvarez. Hey, Alvarez, I love you, brother. I love what you're doing. We talk for days when we see each other. But one guy that I think does not get enough credit is CJ Potter. CJ's a guy that's been around at least a decade or so. And when you see a guy like this, who, when you go back and watch some of his earlier film, you watch his high school film, you know what that guy can be, and you know what that guy was. I'm immediately thinking CJ Potter. And for those who don't know, CJ's our head athletic trainer. Man, if I'm this guy, I'm going to, man, I can talk all day about CJ as well, because what many people don't realize is there was always this big insecurity after I tore my knee up. And CJ, a lot of my defensive coordinators, my head coaches, a lot of these guys get the credit, but people don't understand that CJ was the brains behind getting me back together. CJ was the one, hey, everyone calls me 40, which is my jersey number. Hey, 40, you need to ice this. Hey, 40, I don't like the way, your gait seemed a little off today. Hey, 40, I know you're a little tired, but I still need you to come in. Hey, I want you to work on this. Hey, your VMO is a little off, right? So little small things like that when because at the end of the day, and you heard me mention this to the guys at the facility, your best ability isn't running fast and jumping high.
Yeah.
Your best ability is being available. If you're the only reason we talk about LeBron James, Serena Williams, Tiger Woods, you fill in the blank, you name it. The only reason we talk about these guys is because they're healthy enough to go out and perform their sport. So having a guy like CJ Potter, who's going to give you that hands-on approach, who's going to actually go the extra mile. I can personally tell you that CJ's went the extra mile above and beyond on numerous occasions to make sure that, one, I had everything I needed to go out, and not just the game, but for practice. CJ would get on me, hey, you need these salt tablets. Hey, you need to get this Pedialyte. Hey, you need to hydrate. All these small things that play a key role in making sure that I was healthy and could put my best efforts out each and every game day. So when I see a guy like this, who, to my understanding, he's had some previous injuries, different things like that may have shortened his season. If I'm Fred, CJ should know everything about you between now and training camp, because you're seeing him that much. He should know your favorite color. He should know what food you eat, all these different things. And if he doesn't know that, then that just means that it's not that serious to you.
That's big. That's big. And that goes back to, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I'll be the first to say it. If you're not in because a lot of guys, similar to the mistake I made coming out of high school academically, a lot of guys have more of that reactive as opposed to proactive approach when it comes to taking care of their body.
Mm-hmm.
The cold tub is always available. CJ is always available. His staff is always available. Why wait till you pull your hamstring and want to go out and get the rehab and get the you knew when you ran sprints that day with Coach Alvarez that you almost felt something get a little tight. Go and see CJ. It got to the point where I was seeing CJ for no reason. I'm like, hey CJ, whatever you think I need to do today, nothing hurt, but I just don't want it to hurt later. So whatever you do, let's do that. But that's big. My development long term. So see, a guy like Fred, I think he needs to see CJ and do everything that it takes to just be the best that he can be.
Nah, that's dope, man. And as Ricky's saying, right, longevity and health for greater performance and stamina with staying power. That's 100. That is 100. And so, yeah, man, it's talk about a guy who back in high school, you're seeing some of his high school film and tape right now, right? Who was really got after it, right? And there's a reason, you know what I'm saying, that he was ranked high. He's ranked coming out of high school. There's a reason that Central Michigan liked him as well as some of the other FBS programs. And so he's a guy who, like you said, if he can get his health together, get in there, get connected, right, and come in the fall ready and being able to do all the things, athletically that he was able to do coming out of high school. You know, he's gonna make Panther Nation really, really, really excited, man. So, man, I appreciate you so much, Jerome, and I know PV Nation, of course, appreciates you for coming on and sharing. And first of all, just hearing about everything that you got going on, hearing some of the so now what for you, right, and how you've been able to transition, right, after your playing career, and to continue to keep it going and pour back and impact people. And hey, Isaiah saying, man, listen, who else should we get on the show? You know what I'm saying? Who else do we need to get back on the show? You know what I'm saying? Former Panthers, man.
I think one guy that comes to mind is Marquise Johnson. Marquise is I don't want to tell his whole story, but I'm naturally biased. He has my book, but I won't tell the whole story. But when we talk about impact over influence, like we spoke about with Bubba McDowell, Marquise is that same type of guy. Super stand-up guy. I mean, he's a great guy. Was a really good ball player, and he's doing amazing things post-athletics. And
that's dope, man.
Every student athlete on the team, they need to hear his story. They need to know about guys like that, because as I mentioned, what sold me about PV was not only the playing part, because maybe it was my arrogance, I don't know, but I felt like I can go and compete at any school. Sure, I may have started 2 years later at certain schools or whatnot, whatever, but I felt like I can help any program win physically, right?
Yeah.
Athletically, but it was the culture, it was the community, it was all those things that sold me. So guys like Marquise Johnson, I think he would be a pleasure. I want to tell this story because he has a very unique, and man, his story is just outstanding. So I'll let him share his story. I don't want to overshare, but I'm praying that you guys can make that connection and just allow PV Nation to hear the great things that he's doing.
Oh yeah, that'd be dope, man. And if you do want to hear part of his story before we get that interview set up, it is here. You know what I'm saying? So now what? So you guys need to make sure y'all get y'all a copy of this book. Where can they find it, man?
So now what's available on my website, which is www.traindynamic, TRAIN, dynamic, DYNAMIC, the letter P as in Paul, D as in Dolphin.com. And it's also on Amazon by searching Jerome Howard, So Now What.
Gotcha. So make sure y'all connected, man. Show some love, show some appreciation to the former PV alum, who was also an author, right, as well as a trainer. You know what I'm saying? By getting y'all a book. Even, hey, listen, buy a book so that we can give one to the student athletes. How about that, right? You know what I'm saying? Get a copy for yourself. Buy a copy and say, hey, Jerome, I want to just buy this copy so you can give this to one of the student athletes at Prairie View. Let him give it to Fred Stokes. Let him give Aiden Jones a copy. Let him give Kwame Sardoki a copy. Let him give a copy, right, to our man James Cate III, so that they can already be prepared early on for all the challenges that they're going to be facing throughout their life. So that's a challenge for everybody out there, man. Buy 2 copies, one for yourself. Give one to a student athlete, right? I think that would be an excellent way to show support for PV Nation, both former alum and also current student athletes, and also Train Dynamic PD. Is that also where people can connect with you as far as wanting to be able to find out more about your training, because I know people have their own kids who may be playing right now and they saying, hey man, we're trying to get them to another level, or even themselves, right, saying like, hey, maybe, yeah, hey mate, like me, right, I'm about to become a semi-pro pickleball player. Okay, you feel me? You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? So we got to get out of these pickleball streets, right? But for other people, right, they want to connect with you. Is that also where they can connect with you as far as that's concerned?
Yes. So the first step would be going online and booking a consultation. That's what we'll kind of do, more of a comprehensive assessment of understanding both your current situation and your starting goals. And for all of our guests here, as a way of also giving back to PV Nation, I'm going to enter a discount code, which will be PV versus everybody, which is going to get you guys 50% off of that. So if you check that in the next hour or so, you're going to get 50% off your consultation just for being a PV Panther, being associated with PV versus everybody.
Hey, listen, I like it. You know what I'm saying? We might have to make this a thing. You know what I'm saying? PV versus everybody. Go and drop the discount code for everybody. Yeah, man, that is fire. That's fire. Ricky say, man, old people alert. Listen, I just dropped the link in the chat. I just dropped the link in the chat directly to the page for the book, right? On Dynamic Performance Development website, right? So you can go directly to get that book, right? And again, the challenge I want for you guys, right, is to buy 2 copies, right? You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm pretty sure somewhere there you can let them know like, hey, one book is for me with the address, the other book, please keep it. So next time you go on campus, man, we need 4. Listen, we need 4 of our alum right now. We need 4 of you guys to say, I'm gonna buy 2 books. I need 4 alum to buy 2 books. You buy a book for yourself, and then the other book we're gonna give to these student athletes that we just checked out they film today, right? We're gonna gift them a copy. And we're going to tell them like, hey, man, this is from PV Nation to you, right? On behalf of all the alum who want to see you successful, not just on the field, but to impact you even after, right? As you go on to impact other people. So I need 4 y'all to make the decision today to go to that link, buy a book for yourself and buy a book for those who, for one of these student athletes, right? So please, you know what I'm saying? We just need 4. You know, he said, all right, Ricky said, I'm one of the alums. So we got one already, you know what I'm saying? So the link is already in the chat right there for you guys. And again, that same link also will get you over to the performance. That's the performance website, right? So if you're interested in getting your own, connecting with Jerome, right, and getting, you know what I'm saying, some time for him to check you out, right, and watch your film, you know what I'm saying, and tell you all the things that like, hey man, we got a lot of stuff we need to work on, right? You know what I mean? So for him to do that, he said half off on that consultation using that code, right? And once he sends it over to me, I'll put it on Twitter as well, so you guys can get that code if you're following us over on Twitter. So, man, appreciate you, Jerome, for jumping on, you know, on this midday, man. Obviously, we're gonna stay locked in and stay connected. You know what I mean? And so we got some big things that we planning also for the fall and stuff. So, hey, listen, thank you for jumping on. And listen, if you guys know any other Prairie View alum, right, who would love to connect with the show that we can do some interviews on, we're trying to let you know about all the student athletes and what they're doing. So just let me know. Reach me at pvversuseverybody@gmail.com. We got some more big things on the way. We're not going to release it all yet. All right. You already know about the t-shirts that we're dropping before the spring game. So make sure you get ready for that as well. But until next, listen.
But can I ask one last question before we let everyone go?
Yes, sir.
PV.
You know.
I just had to make sure. Okay.
Hey, listen. Hey, you know, and before you go, we you know what? You know, I just had some drop in my spirit. Listen, as you know, Jerome, it's Why Not PV now, right? And we are big check writers. I need you right now to write a big check. What is the big check that you write for PV Nation this year? What's the big check that you write? Put you on the spot.
Hey man, shout out to Coach Peter, shout out to Bubba McDowell, shout out to everybody on the team. So we all money in. Championship, SWAC championship. No, man, we Celebration Bowl.
Hey, he's writing a big check. Hey, listen, if you come on the show, you got to write a big check from now on. Anybody coming on the show got to write a big check when you come on. All right. And Jerome's big check is Celebration Bowl Champs 2024. Appreciate you, Jerome, for writing your big check. Appreciate you, PV Nation. Again, right? We need 3 more alum to buy 2 copies of the book, and we're gonna get Jerome to give a copy of each of the books to the 4 student athletes, right? You know what I'm saying? I know he's a man of accountability, so I know he's gonna do it, right? You know what I'm saying? Maybe shoot us a picture so we can put that up, right? So we can see what we've done. You know what I mean? But man, we appreciate y'all, man. Thank you so much, Jerome. Thank you so much, PV Nation. Until next time, why not PV? All right, holla at y'all.